Hey guys, it's PTK here again. Episode I believe 7 of Part Time Rambles. Today we have Tyan,
Hey, what's up?
Charlie,
How's it going, guys?
and Bruno.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about mental health in regards to is it real? We're going to be talking about can we make a society better? College, what is the best option to make money? A diet, schooling, police. All this is in regards to specifically America, at least for the last three. So to start off, when we ask is mental illness or mental health real, this is a question that's been argued for a long time, um, in regards to comparing it to diseases and whatnot, and actually it goes back as far as some researcher named Thomas Zaz, I think, and he did a article talking about how basically he didn't like the way DSM decided it, and like whether we use medication or we held the person accountable. He and to be clear, he believed that s- um psychiatric conditions and stuff. He just didn't think we should be approaching it the way we are. You guys can go ahead and whoever wants to take hold.
So
Or
to clarify, that guy's stance is saying that like mental health is a thing, but it should be completely separated from the physical. Is
yes,
that what he's saying? Okay.
yes,
I mean,
Mm,
I'd agree with
okay.
that, but I also think it's a real thing for sure.
yeah.
Um,
I guess his stance is also more like he also doesn't like that we give like
Medication.
medication. It's something like that,
mhm.
but he's basically saying like
Um,
that. Yeah,
I can feel that. No, I feel that. I'm definitely, I can feel that side of it as far as mental health being like a real thing. It definitely is. And especially when we're posing this question, I don't personally think anyone here doesn't think it's a real thing.
Yeah.
I think we mainly posed it because we know that there's a lot of people that struggle with others don't see why it's real.
Yeah.
And what makes it like what for me why people are like, oh, but it's not like you can't physically see it and blah blah blah. Like mental health is discussion of brain and what happens inside and all the electrical firing and mechanisms and chemical balances. So if something chemically is changed in your brain, just like a knife, I mean that physical alteration and chemical alteration, those are like bases of chemistry and learning that we have. So why would we like just completely forget about the entire mental aspect?
I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. I think that you said his name was Zaz, right?
yes,
Uh, there's also a level of like this aspect that I bet certain people would blame uh blame it on mental health if they do something wrong as a way to like not be accountable. And I feel like that was something that he was trying to avoid. But at the same time, like you can't really tell um if there's going to be that like mental change. So it's really a hard thing to gauge in that regard.
Hmm. And that's where I think the whole DSM thing becomes interesting because now we're at DSM-5,
yeah. Right.
Yep.
and the way, yeah, and the
It's
way they describe it's what.
it's funny because I just took that psychology class last summer, and they
Nice.
they had me talk about DSM-5, and a lot of arguments in there was like the new conditions is too easy to get in. Now I thought that was kind of like, I mean, like I see what they're saying, but like they're updating it because more people are are getting it, but they're saying more people are getting it because it's easier to get
It's
it.
easier. Yeah.
So I'm like,
I can
Hmm.
see that.
but
Right. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah. No, no, no.
Do you
It
think
is
it's
a
it's
hard.
problem.
do you think do you think it's easier to get because of different like social factors that have developed like social media and things like that?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
awareness of it for one. Like, right. Like if we didn't have labels for these things, like, would we really be even like calling like having statistics of like whether they exist? And then, like you said, like now
Hmm.
that things are more spread out and like awareness and like the notion of mental illness is like at least talked about, like more people are willing to take, uh, you know, what do you call it? Are like willing to test for it or like, check things out. A lot of people, it's unfortunate too with like mental health. A lot of times the people who actually are suffering from the mental illness won't seek, medical advice or attention.
Yeah.
You actually have to get them like usually through a court order or something along those lines, or like a parent or a guardian has to like sort of coax them in. But yeah, like it is weird to think like whether or not like this spike is an actual spike, or maybe this was the true statistic all along and we just never were diagnosing it, or like you said, like maybe this is something that's just occurred because of social media facilitating like anxiety and social like comparison and stuff like that, like maybe like honestly that's honestly what's kind of hard to like really pinpoint. It's like which how
Hmm.
much of it is that, and then how much of it is like just a actual base statistic of like human variety, because there's definitely variety and some people are probably more susceptible.
I
But yeah.
feel like it's kind of it's a question that we'll never get the answer to because
Yeah.
of how things have gone. And if it's like it just kind of sucks because I do think like a lot of people say our generation gets it easy and whatnot, but I do think people growing up now have to deal with things that people didn't have to deal with before, and
Hmm.
I think that's also a big cause. Another big thing on this argument is the biggest what I saw to be the biggest issue like between the two sides is basically a lot of people always say, well, there's this chemical imbalance, but the fact is that hasn't been proven. Period. It's every time it's been said, people have gone to prove it and they found it false and whatnot. And there is, I do believe it has something to do with the brain, and there's probably some issue in there, but there has been no real study to back that. You know what I mean?
To back what
That
chemical
there's an
imbalance?
actual chemical imbalance. Like, for
Yeah,
example,
there like for like
There's a
depression or
few.
something, or what do you
Yeah.
mean?
like
There's
I
yeah,
thought there
there's
was
studies of
evidence of that.
serotonin and
Yeah,
like
that's
certain
the
chemicals of
hypothesis.
dopamine and
yeah.
things.
But
I've read tons of
what I'm
studies on
saying is like
those.
there's that stuff, but it's not proven. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not like that stuff is out there, but it hasn't been proven to have a real effect on why people have these things. Like even though it's there and there's this percentages, it hasn't been. It's not seen as a
What
fact.
like what do you mean by oh, that's okay. See, this is the biggest issue. And this is why I think it becomes very difficult because there's this whole aspect of science, right? And the scientific method. And so, because of science and things we can learn about nature, I kind of look about it this way, right? If we're talking about the evolutionary thing, go of things, evolutionarily, we could say we're one of the higher up species, correct? That's like fairish to say.
Yeah.
So, if evolutionarily speaking, we're already higher up, then studying other species below us is a lot easier. How their brain works and how things work are trying to understand something that's lesser than us. But then trying to understand something that's of the same caliber or more than us is far difficult. And to know if we have the tools to even do that is even harder. So we are a species that yes, we can harness electricity in certain ways, but like to actually understand the world and how everything works. We don't know what a soul is or what consciousness is. So, how do we study its effects and interactions and its schism with the actual reality around it? That becomes very
Hmm.
difficult. And that's where people are like, no, this is why psychology can't be real. And I'm like, but we know these things are actually happening to us. We document it. We see that there's percentages
Yeah.
of people that it's happening to. And that's why a whole lot of psychology is about rates of percentages and averages. And that's why they're like, well, it's not real because there's nothing concrete. You're saying it's not concrete, but it's happening because you're talking about a world based on variance where nothing always happens. So you
Yeah.
can't
Exactly.
say that this one thing happens. It's already based in diversity. That doesn't make sense. Like you're trying to say that there should be one atom all the time, but there already exists multiple atoms that won't happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you get what I'm
I
saying?
just had to bring it up because that's the side they don't want to.
Like argument. Hmm.
That's their argument. They're going to be like, well, I can't prove this because when I look for these chemical imbalances and the actual effect that it has on these people, it doesn't equal this. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that's
Yeah.
right. I'm just saying that's the argument they're bringing. So that's what I'm bringing.
And what I'm trying to say, I think, is their argument to say it's not equaling is because it's not happening 80% of the
Yeah.
these things will still happen 40 to 60% of the time, but to them that's considered not enough. Do you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
that's a
to
lot of the
me, it
argument.
gets weird because it's like, yeah, you could say that's not like fact, but then when you look at our society, how much of how much does something have to occur for us to be like, oh, that's something that happens? I mean, we go as low as 20% sometimes, so it's kind
Yeah,
of weird to like hold as a belief.
So my question to that is like when someone is trying to deny mental health, how how do they explain things like teen suicide rate being like nearly doubled
true.
or double? Like I don't know how you walk around that and not think
Yeah,
that's a mental
Right?
health
Because you
thing.
would say it's
yeah.
not a fact, right? Because it's
Hmm.
not
I think
90% of
people who
teens.
argue it, people like on the very extreme side, people who are arguing these
Hmm.
things are also saying like, well, those people are just not accountable for their own feelings and what they're doing,
Yeah,
and that's where I have like I'm like that can't be like just it. It's just like,
yeah.
oh,
I
you
agree.
just need to, not, well, no shit, like,
Not be depressed.
but that's
That's a
that's
funny
basically what
argument
they're saying.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you could
I was gonna
always say
say.
that.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, like, to answer your question, like it's what Keemstar says. Like it's so cringy to
Oh,
me. Like he basically says like, oh, like a mental illness is not real. You just have to toughen up. You have to, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Very like Republican like way of thinking too. Like it's like, and it's true. Like I do believe in the fact that humans, what makes us kind of like special is that we really can be in control of our own destiny. We can control the environment. We can like we're very I don't know, we have it's the prefrontal cortex, I guess. So I do believe like people can will themselves, but like you can't just will yourself from depression. Like it takes
Mm,
way more factors than that.
yeah.
Because for example, like I think one of the highest risk factors for suicide is how many connections you have to people. So like if you have zero friends, that means you're a high risk suicide. So that just to me, what that speaks to is that social bonding and connecting is really vital to someone's mental health. And like, but people, like I said, believe like that's not true, or like maybe they don't see it that way. But that's one of the arguments they would say. It's like, oh, they're just not pulling themselves up by the bootstraps. They're not motivated. It's like, what do you like? Of course, they're fucking depressed, bro. But like, yeah, that
Yeah, they
apparently
try
like
to make
that's the way they
friends.
they write it off. It's kind of weird.
yeah,
It's really
that's
strange.
yeah. So I guess I'll ask the question just to ask it, even though I know the answer. But for our audience, basically, and I'll answer first. Do we
Hmm.
believe mental health is real? And
Hmm.
yes, I believe it's real. It's real, and it's just we don't understand it yet. And because we don't understand it, people want to say that it's not a thing, but that's not how we should go about it. And I mean, everyone agrees here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll second that.
yeah, of
Like,
course.
I agree, and like you said, it's a complicated topic. Like, and not like that's the funny thing about psychology. It's like not every two situations are going to be the same, right? Like, for example, you can have twins raised in the same house, same parents, and then one grows up to be really messy, one grows up to be really tidy, and you ask the one who's messy, oh, why did you like that? Oh, because my parents were messy. Okay, sure, that makes sense. Then you ask the one who's really tidy, it's like, why are you like that? It's like, oh, my parents were messy, I never wanted to be like that. It's just at the end of the day, like you said, variance and
It's
like
whatever they
people's personal
preferred.
choice. Yeah, you end up being whatever. Like you can make a decision, but like there's still like influence from the environment. Like they were both influenced, but just in the opposite direction. So there's no like concrete like rule for mental health, and that's why it's so hard to also diagnose, and maybe that's why it's overdiagnosed. But it's still real, like to me.
But there's still boundaries. And I think that's the
Yeah,
thing for me, at
we're
least. There's still boundaries for me that show that there definitely is a mental thing. Like the fact that
hmm
people have schizophrenia, to me, it's like how how are you gonna explain that one to me?
yeah.
If you're gonna say mental health isn't real, like
Yeah,
come on, try.
this guy's lying. He's just lying to you. He wants attention. I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
what are you gonna
See,
say?
but
Yeah,
people do say that. It's insane.
yeah,
But
dude. That's I don't know.
it's like okay, I want you to sit literally for like 2 days. Just sit for 2 days with this person, then trust me, you won't be able to hold a single conversation with them.
Yeah, that's when it gets sad.
but
So quick question. So when Keemstar says something like it's not real and like pull yourself up by your bootstraps
Yeah,
is like me not going to say therapy or getting the right medications and making sure my mind is right, is that not pulling myself up by my bootstraps? Like i i i,
yeah,
I don't know, I'm trying to put
yeah,
yeah,
myself in
yeah.
his thoughts.
apparently like he's commented to people and like replied and to stuff like that, like, oh, like they are getting treatment, it's like stuff. He says like that's getting the easy way out. I don't know what he means by that. Like I said, I didn't go too far into the thread, but I was like, wow, like this seems really stupid.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to explain that one, but
This is how I look at it, right? It's
he,
like we've been
he's
in math
cheating.
class for a long time, and everybody's learned how to do the really hard way to do something. You know, everyone's like, "Oh, no, you just have to keep going, put yourself through it, go
Yeah,
solo. It doesn't matter." And it's like, yeah, that's
yeah,
you can do it
that's
that way.
good.
It's
Yeah,
just super, super hard. And then somebody was like, "Yeah," and the teacher was like, "But you can also do it this way." And everyone's like, "Oh, this works and it's easier." Yeah, yeah. It's and then everyone was like, "Nah,
oh,
Oh
Uh,
no.
what?"
oh,
F
okay.
F in chat.
That's
You're
what it
back. You're
feels
back.
like. What happened? Oh,
Yeah,
could you not
yeah,
hear
yeah.
you,
me?
Oh, you
yeah,
you
Okay.
cut out for a
yeah.
second. Like your
But it
camera
feels
went out
like
for a minute.
essentially everyone, because they were like had to pull themselves up by their
Hmm.
bootstraps, it's like they feel
Mm.
robbed by this easier way.
Yeah,
So they're
yeah.
telling everybody else that the way to do it is to do it the hard way they did. But we're like, but it's easier now. We don't have to send carrier pigeons.
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of getting
Don't you
into
think
a different discussion with. I guess it's the same. When people like the same people who are saying that are also saying like those treatments aren't what you need. They're so like
That's
especially
fair. Yeah.
therapy. They're like yeah, a lot of people don't believe in therapy, and this is very prominent actually in at least to me in American Black culture. Like
Yeah.
a lot of us don't
Sadly.
believe in therapy, and
mm,
because it's seen. I don't know why, but there's just a
Negative stigma,
the
right?
way they, yeah the way they see it is like no, there's nothing wrong with it. Why do I need to go get therapy, or why do I want to listen to somebody who talks, which I mean it's a big issue in the Black community, but I'm sure it's an issue overall too. A lot of people see it as like why would I need to go get therapy,
Yeah.
and that's just another thing
My
that's like
yeah. I was gonna say like I don't know if it's an old head thing or something because my dad says the same exact shit. You know, he's from Peru, but he's like, yeah, you're like you don't need a therapist. You know, you if you want to talk out your problems, talk to me or something. I'm like, okay, dad. Like, I'm like, not that I've ever talked to him about therapy. I think he is because he went to a therapist a long time ago, and I guess he had a really bad experience, and so like he's really against like that because my dad actually has like I'm pretty sure he was diagnosed with type 1 bipolar, so he had like a manic episode a few times, and it was around the divorce too. So he was just having a bad time, especially during that time. And like I guess he didn't like the medication or the therapy, and I don't think he takes meds, and he seems fine. But then now that I think about it, he probably has like I think now a lot it explains a lot of his behavior because he can get pretty manic. Like sometimes he's like on top of the world, and then other times it's like he's just kind of doled out. But yeah, he doesn't believe in that shit, even though he's experienced it. You see what I mean? Like, though, it's like it's weird. I don't know if it's a cultural thing or if it's a old mindset thing or
yeah it's something that's got to change eventually. Um,
yeah.
we have a lot more topics to hit. I think we hit this one pretty well. The next one we have is I feel like we kind of talked about this in the last podcast we did, but what makes a better society? Did we not talk about that in the
No, we just talk about if it was better if everything was happy,
yeah?
right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So we
okay.
had
So
that
this is in more
discussion.
regards to this week's topic. So when you
Hmm.
say what makes a better society, what did you really mean?
Well, that's I meant that like what
Oh, okay.
makes a better society. So essentially, we'd have to define what a
Is like
better society would look like first place.
resources are met for everyone or like basic needs, right? I would say that's how I would
uh,
measure it. And then like positive good, like you said, utility. Like I'm a utilitarian, I guess. Like if things are like net positive, then it's worth it or whatever. Usually, I can't say that's always the case. Um, what else?
uh,
I don't know. That's
bigger
how I
access
would
to
start.
education, more access to
Hmm.
education too.
Yeah, for sure,
Uh,
for sure.
then we don't have people like Keemstar, you know,
Yeah,
Hmm.
spouting bullshit. But
yeah, dude.
Makes sense.
That's something. Do you think kindness should be seen as a base trait for a better society?
Fine.
Yeah,
mm,
we
If
just need to
everyone
have
was
like some
willing,
sort
Because
of
if everybody was kind, like if kindness was not necessarily a requirement, but also like a requirement,
encouragement. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like it was just taught like this is how we are. By the way, we're kind to everyone.
Yeah,
So
like
why
if
not? Like
everyone was just kind
I guess it depends on what you mean by better. Because if we had a very kind society, like and across, like is it across this nation or the world?
the world.
Okay, if we have,
Well,
if we have,
I mean, eventually you would want to take the world because this is the other thing too. Before we, just because someone is kind does not mean they cannot kill you or brutally dismember you.
hmm
Okay, move on.
okay, well then I don't
Jeffrey
see any
Dahmer.
reason to not have kind. There's no
Okay.
reason to not have kind
Like,
because like people need to help out other people. Just what it is. Like, and like if we're saying a better society, we're basically trying to. You already said everyone gets basic needs, which means we have no
hmm
homeless. Uh,
Ideally, yeah.
we have no homeless. I mean, even something we're fighting for in America, healthcare. We don't have access. Not
Yeah,
everyone has access to healthcare or free healthcare.
or something, you know.
If you're
man.
saying society applies to, is war necessary?
No, it's never necessary.
Oh no.
I mean, yeah,
Could
it's hard to argue sometimes, but like just in terms of like if we
I
had
mean,
other
what?
options, like if there's options of send young people to go and die to get this job done, or like find a diplomatic solution, like why not do the other? I know it'd be hard to find a diplomatic for everything, obviously, but that's what I'm saying. Like I don't know if it's pragmatic, but like I feel like the other option, which is war, is like, is it really that good of an option?
here
Yeah.
are two things where I think war, like, is if war is necessary. Okay, so does war make us make better, fighting tools? And if we ever have to, come in contact with another species, did that help us, be able to fight off that threat? Then I could see it
Alien.
being like, I'm just saying, like, if we were all kind, we didn't have to. Why we wouldn't build tools of like
Yeah,
destruction? We wouldn't need to. And
yeah,
then,
exactly.
the other thing is, like, okay, if everyone's doing good and everyone has the basic needs, people are going to die still. It's just going to happen. But are
Yeah,
enough
Mhm.
people going to die? You understand what I'm saying?
yeah,
We don't want to
yeah. We would,
overpopulate.
yeah, we
So
would need
that's
to
where,
manage the
Mhm.
population. Yeah, like
and like
one
then
child law.
and like that only that's still that's like a band-aid, right? It's not really a solution. The one you know what I'm saying?
Maybe it also depends because you also have to think about why we even have so much overpopulation. I would say a huge part of the overpopulation to under education mixed with being then fucking then
You're
having
cutting out like every other
Yo,
word.
I know.
yeah, bring your
kidding
mic
I was
closer
me?
to
about
your
to
face.
say.
Gosh,
It was
dude.
Oh,
like
I
every
try
other
every
word.
time you came
I
back,
thought
I was
was
like, maybe I'll
working.
get it, and then I was like, no, I won't. I can't.
All right, am I still cutting out?
No.
A little bit.
Yeah, try.
This? Okay, this better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Someone else just continue. I forgot what I was
I mean,
saying.
I've
uh,
been there,
th-
bro. Been
th-
there.
I mean, there's also just the aspect that war normally brings like a very large amount of jobs, which,
Yeah, for
like for
sure.
manufacturing, more boost to military. Like, there's so many like benefits like that. But I would never want to send people off to die. That's just awful,
S-
but
this
and
is what's
inhumane. But
mhm. This is what's interesting, at least to me, because with the kindness thing is like if somebody is kind or if we encourage kindness, to me, kindness is a connection between like people, right? If I
hmm
encourage kindness, doesn't mean that every creature they come across they're going to be kind to. It just knows in a society setting, people know they have to be kind to each other. So the idea of being creative and being violent, like it's not like hunting would stop or these types of sports would stop. It's not like people would be like, you know what, let's not do MMA anymore because I want to be kind. No,
Yeah,
we're still kind,
because
but I'm gonna be kind and nice to you, and then I'm gonna kick your ass. So
you're
to me, like these ideas of like video games and these other worlds and stuff like that still allow these creative outlets. These ideas of people still wanting to compete, they just now compete in a to me, what becomes more healthier and positive could still yield positive results. Because the bigger question for that society, in my view, is whether they believe there could be a threat from another planet or not. Because if they believe they're the only people in existence and they don't need to ever progress or work towards shit, then they would just chill. But if they believe that maybe at some point someone else may cause problems that they hope they can be nice with, then they would still work towards and create defenses and practice and be
Yeah.
prepared for these things. But they wouldn't practice doing those things to each other all the time
Yeah, yeah.
in order to just gain land. You know what I mean? Like for arbitrary things that they already have in their society.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a good
Because
point. Like
war
being
does
prepared.
generate a lot. Yeah, being prepared.
Yeah, it's
War
like okay,
generates a
just in
lot of
case.
jobs. I agree.
It's just unfortunate that it comes from such a negative thing, like all this job
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Yeah,
But
it's but like I said, like that's the tough thing. It's like, is it always negative? Because then it's like the argument that I think in my head, like that someone could say to me, is like, well, then was World War II a bad thing? It's like, well, I guess not. Like we had to stop these violent
But
people.
what
You
were
know what
they
I mean?
fighting
But
against?
that's what I'm saying. We had to stop these violent people. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like they're gonna genocide us. It's okay to be
It's
self-defensive. You know
okay,
what I mean? Like, yeah, it's okay to be self-preserving. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. You know, that
and
makes
that.
sense, but like it still sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, ugh, we're gonna lose people, you know, but they kind of instigated it. Hey, they
Yeah,
plus
started it, man.
if there was never war, then there wouldn't be a need for a military, which would have so many like societal influences. Like I know
Yeah,
so many people that go to the military because they can't afford college or
yeah, dude.
that kind of thing.
You
So
have
but
to, yeah.
would those
that
other
would affect so
things
much.
be an issue?
Yeah, they would because
Because that's what's also weird. Like,
True.
if you
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have
yeah.
to have the war and everybody's working together and everybody's being kind, then the need for jobs and the need for everybody to have money just kind of goes away. The industrial complex was hugely created because of war in the first place. It was
Yeah.
like, imagine pumping out this huge amount of money and then everybody spent it, and then they're like, wait, we don't have any money. And they're like, what do you mean? We just started a war. And they're like, yeah, but we spent it on stupid shit. So we don't have any
Hmm.
money. And then they restart a war and they just keep pumping it out. And now we rely on money so much, you literally can't exist in this society without money, which is
Yeah.
weird because any other animal can exist without money.
only because we let them.
Yeah, but that's a capitalism thing,
I
though. That's
mean,
something else. Don't worry about that, man. You're saying capitalism wouldn't be part of a good society, or what would you suggest then?
No, I capitalism can still be a part of it. I think it doesn't have to be a
I think
hundred
so too.
percent capitalism.
mm,
We're not even 100%
Doesn't have
capitalism,
to
which I think
be.
is funny. Everybody's like capitalist, capitalist. I'm like, we're not even 100%
Think so,
capitalist.
yeah.
Like, why? Why do you keep acting like that? If you make money the base, I think it's funny because the rich people, the people that control the country, have the actual economic influence that the country should have. We shouldn't be only based in money, it should be diversified. You should have multiple assets
Mhm.
that make up what you own.
I,
So, like, I don't have to have a ton of money, but because I have all these chairs and stuff in my house, or because I can cook food, that's easy for me to trade with somebody else and not have an issue.
So war is necessary.
No, I don't think war is
Well,
necessary.
I mean,
I think war is just
I
fun.
okay, I see if we didn't need if we had what we
fun.
needed and we're still pushing towards things, then yeah, I can agree.
I
But
like how that's the takeaway.
This
War
is
is
the same thing we said
fun.
with the happiness.
well, I mean, it is what it is.
That's,
But
that's so funny.
I guess another thing that be talked about is like if we're just talking about a better society, then I guess a better society would have like I don't want to say mandatory because that kind of means like you have to and like someone's enforcing it, but like less less being inside, more going outside, more being like active.
Oh, I get what you're
So
saying.
everybody's in good shape. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like when I say good shape,
Oh,
I'm not talking six pack like whatever. But I'm saying at least
I think so.
no obese, and not by the old standards that they have now. The standards they have now
Oh,
are flawed. But that's another discussion. So like, would it be mandatory to go
yeah.
outside and be in shape for a better society? Like, would that make a better society?
Would that make a better society? See, that's interesting. So now, with that question, to me, it's like you're asking
Better.
if somebody caring about their own personal physical health is important to a better society,
Well,
which
there
sounds
there's
like
there's
immediately yes,
but there's so many
but it's
different.
weird in
It's
every
not just
country.
like, oh, I want to look good or anything. It's more like it's just like by stats alone. If you're in better shape and you're more active, you're usually there's a lot of benefits to.
Trickles up. Yeah.
Oh no, I get that, but what I'm saying is if I want to
Better mood.
eat as much food
Yeah.
as I want
More
and
productive.
I still am productive enough in that society, why would I need to do those things? Would doing those things make the rest of the society more beneficial in any way? Do you get what I'm saying?
But I'm
At what
saying,
threshold would that be?
but I'm saying if okay, if there's benefits to being at a certain threshold of like in shape, and everyone had those benefits, then the whole society is gonna go up.
But how? Like, what is, you're saying the whole society's going up, but like, is this society better just because people are more in shape? Are you saying this more in shape allows them to be fend off against a different society, or this more in shape elevates their mood and that's why the entire society is better? That's what I'm
Elevates
asking.
their mood, and they're less likely to do a number of like people who are active and more like I said, if you're more productive and the society becomes more
Hmm.
productive as a whole, that's good. That's a better society, yeah?
Hmm. Hmm.
Is what I'm saying. But unless you're
I'm
saying
I'm
that
just
that
I'm
doesn't
just making
mean,
sure you explain
yeah,
all this
yes.
because there's
Oh,
gonna be a
oh,
lot of
oh!
people that are
You're
gonna
saying
hear
why
this.
do I have to be in shape for the society to be? Okay, I got you, I got you. But that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying like you have to look good for it, but not. I'm not. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the benefits of being healthy.
Hmm.
And again,
I,
not yeah.
I get what you're saying, but I feel like there's something kind of like inherently like almost dangerous of saying that someone that's more fit is intrinsically like better than
This
someone
is
that's
what's
less
funny,
fit.
right?
Like that isn't very kind, if you ask me.
But that's what's
'Cause
funny, and it's weird for me to hear, but it's like, is this an issue because our society's got so weird because people have become sensitive on this topic, even though there's definitely factual evidence of one way being more beneficial for the rest of your body and longevity? That's why it's like, how do you? I'm not saying you should fat shame people or go out and like make fun of people for being that way, but I also would not condone somebody to eat or act that way.
And
So it's really
so let me
weird.
try to clear this out. So what I'm saying is not that someone that like okay, for a fact that there are definitely people who are not in shape that are definitely better for
Uh-huh.
society than people who are in shape. But as a whole,
Uh-huh.
when you're
Okay.
taking it in as a whole, and you know that like you're getting these bonuses. So like if you want, so like for your car, when you get a car, you know you need to get a oil change and like all these things, and you need to do it, but and they give you recommended dates. These dates are recommended because your car by stats will be better and it'll last longer. So with these checks,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
if you do this, you're more likely. Not that it's going to happen, but it's more likely. So because your chances go are the chance percentage of it being better goes up.
You want to hit that date range.
Like you know what I'm saying? It's not
Hmm.
guaranteed, but your chances go up.
Yeah.
Essentially, if you
Your
have Tom and Brady, and Tom is heftier than Brady, but he's more productive than Brady, if Tom was also the same did the same um, self health thing, he would also be even more productive than Brady in the first place,
Productive,
is what you're
yes.
saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Not that he would automatically, but he'd
Yeah.
have a chance.
He would boost his
He
own.
would have a
He
chance
would
to be.
boost it. Yeah, he
You know what I'm
boosts his
saying?
base stats. You basically boosting your base
It's like
stats.
if
You
you're
have a
playing a
better
game,
chance to.
you They're like,
It's
if you
D&D.
run every day, there's a 5% chance that when you run every day, that your stats go up. It's not guaranteed, but there's a 5% chance. Why would you not take? If you look at it like as a company wide thing, why would you not do it? If you're looking at a whole, you're going for as most benefits as you can. Why would you not go? And that's
Yeah,
what
like
I'm saying.
exercise and stuff is definitely important to our health. Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like I see why we're like kind of being cautious with the topic, but I know what you mean. All right, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I got a
It's
weird
funny.
kind of take, but so hypothetically, right? If everyone was healthier and then life expectancy increased, wouldn't overpopulation become a big problem, especially like in the states
Depends.
and stuff?
That's why
Like
we have
how
wars every year.
That
ah yeah,
that's
just
why we
kind of my
now we
Okay,
host a
okay.
purge actually, and
See
no, see
that
that just
I guess
depends
yeah.
on
There
you
child
go.
limitation, family, because it's weird when that's why I always love talking about different societies, right? Because you have to compare the society you actually live in and what you think about and how you think about things, and then think about that society if you never ever experienced the rest of this bullshit, right? Because yes, you would live longer, but like, do people want to have more kids? Are kids something that most people want? Because in my experience, a lot of boomers had kids because it was propaganda to have
Yeah,
children. Not a
kind
lot
of,
of people wanted fucking children. Not a lot of people were educated and didn't use condoms, or they would preach abstinence and finally they couldn't handle it anymore, so they didn't have sex properly and still got pregnant. Like, you run into all these other issues because of like poor education and because people aren't being kind and this and this and that. So it's like, is there a chance because the age range increases? Yes, but it's hard to say because there's a lot of other issues that would not be there anymore
fault.
either.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fair point. Actually, I like that.
Because so many people that I know, especially around like 20 to 30, are like, nah, I don't want to have kids. Like, I don't. And then there's people that do. But like, if everybody is chilling and does what they want, I feel like the world will kind of balance everything out and it'll work out. Not everybody wants a kid.
Yeah, so true.
So, do we have any other suggestions for a better society? If not, I want to hit something real quick. So, I understand that the way we say things sometimes comes across uh not in the right way or seems wrong. And like for example, I can understand why you guys are being so cautious because even when um Charlie was being very he was bringing it up to me and so was Time.
There's a word for this, right? Didn't they make a thing for this?
But
There's an acronym. There's an
for
acronym for this. PC.
yeah,
PC.
okay. So
PC. There you go.
so even when he brought it up to me, I can see people watching this because even after we went through all that, we even said if people are more healthier, we're dealing with overpopulation. We're not saying that just because you're not in shape, you're gonna die, But I'm just saying, like, like, look, when you guys
You're
hear
just
these
saying it's
arguments,
hard to run for the wolves.
I like to talk
Yeah.
about the benefits. I am not in the best shape myself. I mean, I'm not in bad shape, but I'm not in the best shape.
Oh,
So, but the point
okay.
the point I'm making is like I'm not even following my own recommendations. Like when it comes to like being active or healthy. So don't take like what I say personally when I'm saying these things. Like it's me included. Like when I'm saying these things.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems we've hit this topic. If you guys have anything you want to ask or talk about or even bring up to us or felt a funny way, go ahead and put it in the comments. I'd like to see your engagement. Just saying. All right. Next thing we have to hit
Show.
is college the best option to make money? It's another topic. It's a very interesting topic. me,
It depends.
is
You
it
go
the
first,
best
I'll let
way?
you handle it.
Is it the best way? Look,
I don't think it's the best way, but I probably would say it's the most consistent way to be able to get into a job.
it's the
Like
most
if you're
standard
not in
way.
college, you can
Yeah.
never get a good job. I mean, it doesn't bar you out, but it's a lot easier to get into a higher paying position with
Yeah.
that degree. Like I don't think anyone can deny that.
Mm-hmm.
But best way, I mean, that's kind of subjective in itself. But
I would say it's not the best way. I agree with kind of that consistent. It's one of those pay to play things, you know. You just continue a little bit longer in an easier environment, and then you can go and be in a higher rung and make like not a ton of money, but more than enough, and you'll be able to kind of chill. But you have to study and
Mm-hmm.
you have to do a certain thing. Like you have to be a certain way the whole entire time. That's what's annoying about college and why I wouldn't say it's the best way because humans and the
Mm-hmm.
brain and genetics works in diversity, and because of diversity, it's not very helpful to be in a standardized system if your brain
Yeah.
thinks different than the standardization. So as far as like
Mm-hmm.
just making the most money or the best way to make money, I wouldn't say college is the best system.
So
Yeah.
I just thought of this on the spot, but I know it's very subjective. But to me, I think there'd be a solution that could be called the best way, and this comes from like the beginning, like starting from like kids going to like preschool and elementary school and all these things. The education that we are required to have um, before college and high school.
Hmm.
These are the
Mm-hmm.
things that will be the best way in making you money. So if they taught instead of teaching you our version, like instead of teaching you their version and like these things, if they taught you, hey, when you get to this age, these are things you're gonna need to know how to do. These are things you're gonna need to know how to handle. There's gonna be people you have to know because anyone who's grown up knows anything. It is you do not need a degree. You do not need a diploma
Mhm.
to to get things done. If you know the right people, as long as you are educated, it doesn't matter what you have, as long as there's someone to back you. And if they taught networking, and if they taught like stocks and investing and tax
I
and
know.
and
Finance. Yeah.
taught any of those things, people would be able to handle these things a lot better. And if you're at a young, and another thing, a lot of people don't start looking at careers until damn near the end of, it's too late.
Yeah.
But if they have you start looking, and people always say, "Well, I did say something." No, you heard side comments from a parent or a teacher, and it was every once in a while, and they're always making like it's always snarky comments. It's never like,
Pushing you.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, hey, you need to
Yeah.
do this, blah blah blah. But like, I'm not gonna. If we had a class that was just like, hey, this is what is going to happen, and this, so people clearly understand. Because a lot of people don't really understand. They know that it's something they should do, but they don't because they really don't understand. Like I don't know.
They-
Yeah.
I think they also explain it weird. They explain it like, oh, you're gonna have a job and a career, and you'll also like live your life. They don't tell you that like, no, 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 that's gonna be the same thing. Like your job and your career should be the thing you
It
want
is
to
your life.
do and keep
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when
Yeah.
you're a
Yeah.
kid, you're just like, oh, well, I'll do something that's like cool, and I'll also be
Yeah.
doing
Exactly.
this. And then you'll grow up and you're like, wait, I don't have time for any of this shit.
Mm-hmm.
I think a big problem is like, for example, another thing is they say they preach college, 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 but they don't tell you how. People go into college and not do the wrong thing, but it's like, okay, college does not guarantee you, even with a degree, any job. So again, if you go through college and you don't network, you're coming out and you're not gonna find anything. Like depending on your degree, because there's some high demand shit that's like someone's gonna find you and pick you up. But again, a lot of people are picking up people who are book smart but not smart. Like I wouldn't say you're not smart, but you don't know what you're actually doing. So they have to teach you,
Yeah,
and that's a big issue. So
that's
so when you go to college, you gotta understand that like they're not teaching you what you need to know, and that's another issue. Like it's just college.
Yeah,
You
we
have to network if because going to college and getting a degree is not enough. I've seen too many people come back with degrees and they're fucking working at McDonald's. And I'm not saying working at McDonald's is bad. I'm
Yeah,
just saying they did not go get that 4 year degree to be working at McDonald's.
to be
it's sad.
working at McDonald's.
Hmm.
It's because a lot of people think about and preach college, like you said, as a bonus level. Like, oh, I just have to win this. I beat the level and then I'm chilling. Instead of like a buff. It's like, oh, you went to college? Oh, that looks good. So what did you learn there? What did you do when you were there? You're like, oh, I I thought I just had to go to college. No. You have to do something while you're there. Like that's just you'll meet other people that are cool and should have other connections, and that's how you branch out. Like people who go and work in other trade crafts will meet people and connect and branch out through there. But it's like, yeah, it's weird how they talk about college compared to other things. It's seen as like an only option instead of another option.
A big thing I'll preach is when you go to college, a lot of people don't do this, but when meet people, the people who are in these other classes, the people that are in these other classes, uh, talk to your classmates, figure out what they do, and if they're already doing something that's the class pertains to, and then try to see how they got into it and become friends with them. Not saying become friends with them so they can give you an opportunity, but like understand that that opportunity is there, and then
Hmm.
also talk to your professors. Talk to your professors because your professors are always they're working. They're already working in the field. They know people in the field. They probably did some. They're probably doing this as a side hustle. I'm not even gonna lie to you. A lot of these college professors are like, yeah, I teach on Monday and Wednesdays, but the rest of the week I'm back and I'm doing what I got to do, and or I'm on a contract right now. So you need to talk to those professors because if they like you and you talk to them and you get a relationship, they will recommend you jobs. They will put a word in for you, and that's what you need when you get out. Opportunity.
Hmm.
So, so I'm really curious. Would y'all, if it's not the best way to get a job, would y'all say how would y'all respond if someone said it's the best way to network? Because I think networking is such a strong way to get a job, and like, I mean,
How would you?
can get you into a nice place.
Okay. Well, this is what I will say about that. I will say college is one of the better places in which one of the better places that has networking opportunities.
Hmm.
But you don't have to go to college
Yeah.
to get a job. You just have to
Yeah,
go to
that.
a college to get a
Yeah,
job. Do you feel me? Like, if
I
I
feel you
learn
on
how to
that.
be personable, I can walk onto a campus and just smooge my way onto anything. That's just all networking
Yeah,
is.
Hmm.
But like
yeah,
college doesn't teach that schmoozing part. When you go to college
Hmm.
to
yeah.
talk
I
to
know.
people and to
Yeah.
learn and to be good at that, they don't even talk about that. And that's the most important
I
part.
know.
Like UCSD, one of the biggest complaints about students that graduated from there was like they didn't know how to work in a team. They didn't know how to interact with their coworkers. And it's like
Ugh,
what's the point? You literally studied that whole time. You spent 4 years to be useless
I
essentially
know.
because you can't interact.
Yeah, that's the rough part. And like, kind of like going back to what you guys were saying and stuff in terms of whether college is like the best way to make money. Like to me, the way I see it, you don't need an education. You just need skills, applicable skills, and the right education to back that up. And that doesn't necessarily always entail in college, right? So like even just like the like Graham Stephan or like Bill Gates, it's always the very
Yeah.
cheesy examples people give, but it's like you don't as if you have a skill that and a passion that like is applicable or at least somehow manageable in the real world, that's not just like liberal arts or like like a history of science degree or something. It's like, okay, you're obviously not gonna get a job, and you might get a job, but it wouldn't be a high paying job.
A
Like you have
high
to, if you
paying.
want to get a high paying job, you just have to learn practical skills. I mean, that's just the way I see it, and I don't think necessarily college is again, it's nice to have that networking and like, and that's a good place to get internships. And like it's definitely a good environment, but
It's a
unfortunately,
great tool.
another point that you guys brought up is that that's not always encouraged or like talked about, and that's like the sad thing is that a lot of students go to college and then don't take advantage of like the possibilities they have of internships. talking to their professors, maybe working in the lab if they have a lab. You know what I mean? Like that's more important than actually like getting an A on this test to me at least. It's like getting the in-person experience because that's what people really want, especially in like, in business, of course. They don't want just to see an academic. They want to see someone who can apply themselves.
Yeah. The
And
best way to get a job. Oh, sorry. You can go.
uh,
The best way to get a job, I think, is friends, honestly. I think we talked about a lot about being social creatures and stuff like that. The more people you're able to talk to, the better you're able to talk to them. And then as far as like learning things, you usually do things with your friends. If you want to learn about something, you can do that easier with friends. Making
Hmm.
jobs and finding something suitable becomes a lot easier that way. You can't connect, it doesn't matter.
and I just want to hit two more things on this topic. To get back to Charlie's question, to really learn how to network, how to socialize. I think he was asking like, how do you learn that? Because you said friends. Well, what if you don't have friends? Like, how would you? What is your advice to someone to like learn to do that? Do they take a public speech class?
Television.
No.
You could.
Yeah, no, I was saying that because I just and like
Yeah, recommendation. Yeah,
don't
throwing talking point. Yeah, yeah.
if you're looking to network, that's not it. But yeah, but like I'm actually curious. Like, do you guys have any answers?
My
Do
favorite
you?
book on that topic is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Daniel
Oh,
Carnegie. I read that like we're actually out of high school, and it blew my mind because it's so simple and so like when you read the book, you get a lot of hindsight bias in it because you're like, wait, isn't that obvious? Because it's like it's very like little things. It's like
it
like
is.
smiling more, or it's like repeating things back that people say, or like being genuinely interested in people, not faking it. Because that's another thing. Like the book, like at the end of every chapter, he always repeats, "These are not tactics for manipulation. If you want to be friendly with people, and like you have to build a genuine interest in people." And people pick up on genuine, characteristics like that. So like you can't just fake your way into like, hey man, like what's up, Bill Gates? Can we talk for a second? And it's like, no, get the fuck away. You have to still have to build a ship like from a genuine place. But really, like that book blew my mind because, like I said, it's so simple, and I like to read it like every now and then. I actually should read it again. I've only read it twice, but yeah, it's a really good one. Dale Carnegie, I think, is the author. It's a really old book, like 1920s, so like, but still very relevant. It's kind of crazy.
Um, any other suggestions? Or
I mean,
Uh,
my response to that is to really just put yourself in situations where you'd have to be more sociable.
Hmm.
Uh, like for example,
Practice.
yeah, practice is a big thing. Like I
You
used to
have
have
to.
really crippling social anxiety, and sometimes I would just not speak for like entire days. And then ended up forcing myself to be on a Twitch stream where you have to talk, or else you're not gonna have
Yeah.
any success at all. And eventually, just like practicing repetition over and over, like you finally are able to get your words out a bit better. Um, but I don't think a Twitch stream, I don't think that a Twitch stream necessarily is like the best way to
yeah,
do it. But just like putting yourself in situations where
Yeah.
you have to do certain things.
Yeah.
Sure.
I can second that really quick because like I think I don't know if you watched my videos, Tyrell, but like I've even been recently talking about like motivation and stuff. And one of the things I brought up that is very true to his point is like practice just makes perfect. Like you just have to try shit. Like my first few videos, you can kind of tell I was kind of awkward in front of the camera. Like I don't know what it is about speaking to a camera alone in a room, but it just felt weird to me. And I was like, like I couldn't like get that eerie feeling. But I just kept doing it, and some of the videos cringe me out when I look at it now. I'm like, ugh, like I should delete it. But I'm like, nah, like to me, it's like a badge of honor. I'm like, you know what? I had to go through the trials and tribulations, but now like I can look at the camera and talk like nothing. Like it's kind of funny. I was like, it's like I'm a completely different person. You just throw yourself out there, like you said. It's so true.
yeah. I
Hmm.
can agree with everything you're saying, and I understand everything you're saying because so in the middle of my public speech class in spring, I went in person. My speech, I did fine in front of people. But when COVID happened, they closed down. We did start sending videos. bro, I could not fucking talk to this fucking camera.
I don't know what it is.
I was like looking at it, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I felt so stupid or like
it just
cringe
feels
or
stupid.
and
Yeah.
I'm just like, who am I talking to right now? And then I'm like,
See,
and it's like I still feel weird. Like it's good when like you said streaming. Like there's people in the chat or like you guys are here, so I don't feel that. But like by myself, like it's really hard to get used to. But it's possible.
Yeah.
That's funny because I was gonna say one of the better ways for me that I've learned is through television and movies and just watching those a lot by myself. With family and stuff is cool, but like that's more for enjoyment. But by myself, I really noticed a lot more the interactions between the characters it created. Because when
Hmm.
you're writing a show or a movie, it's still like real life essentially. Yeah, there's gonna
Yeah,
be
they
fake
try to.
scenes. Mm-hmm. But like if your connections between the people don't seem real,
People pick
people
up on
can't
that.
watch
Yeah,
it.
dude.
Yeah.
People don't like
So
that. It's so true. It's so
exactly. So it
true.
has to be
Yeah.
written like a real conversation and real connections. So if you practice watching that and if you can guess kind of what a character's going to say and you're guessing correctly, like you're starting to pick up on what people are doing. So if you watch 3 different rom-coms, by the third rom-com, you're like, "Oh, this is the formula for how
Yeah.
people tend to act in romantic situations. Oh,
Hmm.
this person's getting all awkward. Oh, she's blushing." Like those things will happen in real life too.
Yeah.
Not as exaggerated,
Yeah,
but
of
at
course.
least
Yeah.
you have like a template for what's going on instead of being so like, fuck, I have no idea. Because I feel like that's the weirdest thing, at least for me, when I'm in social situations, I get anxious because I'm like, I just don't know how someone's going to act
Yeah.
and you can never really know. But like at least through watching movies and stuff, I'm like, at least I can kind of act like I know where I'm supposed to be because these
Hmm.
characters knew where they were supposed to be when this shit happened.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because now that you just mentioned it, the other source I would recommend for people who want to practice like networking and social skills, Charisma on Command. It's a YouTube channel. Really cool because the what he does, he analyzes a lot of like celebrity interviews and like stuff like that, or like he does a lot of it. His content varies a lot because he didn't always just to analyze people, but recently, like the last 3 years, he analyzed a lot of people. Like he even predicted Trump was gonna win back in the day, and he was talking about why, because like he was talking about the way he spoke and like how he was always like grandering people up, and like he kept
Mm-hmm.
things simple, like and it's and then like ended up like literally everything he said ended up happening. I was like, wow, like this guy kind of actually knows his shit. But it's funny because he uses a lot of like or like even just dramas like Game of Thrones, and he analyzes like how the power dynamics these characters kind of play. And it's funny because there's some truth to it. Like you said, it's a little glammed up for media, obviously, but you
Mm-hmm.
know, there's some truth to like how humans behave or like the interactions that we try to go through, or at least that are dramatized, you should say.
Mm-hmm.
And just so you guys know, we are really close to hitting the hour mark, and we're not going to hit the rest of our topics. But for this college topic, there is one more thing that I think we should talk about, and just finish up. If you guys are fine going like 5, 10 minutes over,
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
yeah.
cool me.
So we hit, we hit like, is it the best option? We hit why we feel like it isn't. We hit what we feel like it
Hmm.
is. I also want to hit because the goal is to make money. I want to talk about uh fuck, I had it on mine. The cost. Okay, so a lot of people end up going to college and
Ooh.
losing money. Okay, so I'm in college right now, and I'm going to be transferring to a university pretty soon here. But the only reason
Mm-hmm.
I'm allowed to do that is because my parents were military. So until
Oh, war.
Ah.
because but as long as I finish all my schooling before um the age of 28, my stuff is paid for.
Mm.
Not my books, and I don't know if it covers everything, but largely a good amount of it is doing it. So I'm doing
Like the tuition.
yeah. So I'm doing as much as I can by the time I'm 28 because I won't be able to do that anymore. I'll have to pay for it out of pocket,
Hmm.
and to me that was never worth it. So if you guys
Yep.
don't know, I am a computer science major, and that is
Good.
yeah, and that is my goal. But if I were to not have the resources to do so, I would probably go to I'd be using resources like Udemy. I would get
Yep.
certifications instead.
Yep.
I know a lot of people where they could get me in, and then I would go and work there, and then only like if those jobs, like after I made so much money, were like, hey, we want to promote you, but we can't promote you until you get this. I'd be like, okay, and those companies would
Damn, yeah.
probably back me with the finance to do so. So, but there's other options to do
Yep.
those things.
Yeah, they will.
So I just want to say, like, another thing is make sure you. I know it's really hard and like to get the resources to go, and that's something that needs to change. And at least in America, because college tuition is
Yeah.
insane. But if you have the resources and it's a degree that you're informed about and it will help you, I recommend learning as much as you can for free if you can,
Yeah,
or
always.
at a much lower price. But if it costs, the benefits of it I think really goes down because a lot you come out with a degree with a debt you can't and then you don't get the job you want and then you're stuck paying that debt and for whatever else.
Yeah, dude.
What do you guys think about that? Obviously, it's
I'm
you guys have
living it
different
right
point of
now,
view.
so
God.
the debt's not worth it.
Yeah, bro. I'm very lucky that I didn't get any debt. Like that was my latest video, I think, was how I was able to graduate almost for free. And I talk about how for me it kind of worked in my favor that my parents didn't really have that much money, so my low income bracket like qualified me for a greater FAFSA loan. So my Pell Grant and my Cal Grant covered like 95% of my tuition, and then like 5% was out of pocket, so it was like 800 a semester or some shit like that. And then books and stuff I had to pay for myself. But then there's online resources, Library Genesis, uh like there's a few other like textbook websites. I don't remember now off the top of my head, but like I used a lot of I basically had to kind of weasel my way through the system, and I still ended up paying a little bit, but luckily I didn't have debt. But that's the thing that makes me sad is like you just said, most people end up incurring debt to get the degree, and then oftentimes the payoff isn't as expected, and then they're just stuck with the loan. And that always what really hurts me about the system. It's like, why like that? And then the fact that or one of the reasons that tuition is so expensive is that since it's a federally backed loan, colleges were like, oh wait, the government's gonna pay for it. Then like, well, let's increase, let's bump it up a little bit. And then I don't know why it goes to absurd lengths now. Like I think it's like 200% from like the 70s or something. So I don't know if that's the whole story. There's probably another factor there, but like it's weird how it worked out that way. It's just sad. Yeah, it's not worth. That's what I'm trying to say.
It
Not
really
worth the
sucks
debt.
that it really sucks that getting a higher education requires almost like a leap of faith. Like I know that if I didn't get into this current situation because I just landed a job this week that's gonna end up paying for my tuition. But if
Nice.
I wasn't able to get that, I fully think I probably would have been absolutely fucked coming out of college, unless if I landed some really good internship or something. Like just got
Yeah.
lucky out of nowhere. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and like that just speaks to our point. We have like what you guys are seeing here. I'm not saying that we are the people to listen to or that we are the most educated, but you have people here who have experienced both sides of this. People who haven't paid for, people who are going through it. Everyone here is gone to or is in college, and we did our time or are doing it.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
struggle.
I'm
I'm
done.
telling you.
It's over.
Yeah.
We're doing our time.
We're at the
man.
clink.
Yeah.
As I walk with my chains.
That's what I like to think of it because no surprise. I think college is a waste. Okay, it's not a waste of time.
Yeah, me too.
But it's you don't come out of it with you have to make the best out of it. It doesn't.
Yeah,
give
exactly.
You the best.
Yeah.
It's not automatic.
And,
A lot of people think it's automatic or something.
It's a thoroughly inefficient system.
I used to. Yeah.
Yeah, that will be.
Fuck college.
Relate to that so much.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of this podcast. That was Part-Time Rambles, episode 7 or 8. Hey, we're getting there.
7.
I'm sorry, 7. Okay, and it is what it is. I mean, I'm glad you guys stuck around. I'm PTK Stuffums. If you're looking at anywhere, you can find me on Twitter like that, on my YouTube channel, and all this stuff. I'm going to actually link the titles and resources these guys mentioned. Also, before we head out, let these guys shout their stuff out too. Bruno, why don't you go?
Sure. So my YouTube channel is just my full name, which is Bruno Pozo. That is Pozo with a P-O and a Z-O. And yeah, so the book actually is free. I'll link you because I actually have it in my link because I love that book so much. And all my YouTube videos too. Like I have it as like a free book to read, and it's you can just find it online because it's so old. It's like out of domain or whatever you call it. And then on my social handles, it's all chaotic one and then the number two at the end. So spell out chaotic one and then there's a number two, and that's it. And you'll see me there.
Okay. And Charlie, you can go ahead and shout your stuff out.
Yeah, so I'm basically only active on Twitch and Twitter, and you can find me at both of those at Roku Route. So that's gonna be ROKUROUTE. And yeah, I try to stream as often as I can. I'm trying to get at least like 4 or 5 days in, so a week. So that's
Nice.
where I'm at right now.
And then my last man, Tyan. He doesn't have any social
Yeah.
goddamn handles. Okay.
Yeah,
He's
I
a
have
no
no
social
handles.
content
Yeah.
Andy, and he
Just,
needs to. You need to at least make a Instagram, Twitter handle that we can shout out every week. I will be leaving links to everything in the description, all their handles, and if you want to get more of us,